Good evening and welcome to World Today. It's a show on which we tell you what happened around the world in the day gone by. I'm Amritpal Singh, and today on the show we are going to discuss the evolving situation in Afghanistan, which is getting worrisome, and how the world leaders and the world is right now focusing on evacuation of the diplomats from there, and also the people, the Afghans who work there. The NATO is holding a meeting this evening to discuss the situation. Also, German Chancellor Angela Merkel met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the Afghan situation was discussed between the two, but the situation there remains tense. We'll talk about that over the next 1 hour, but first up, the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Situation remains tense in Afghanistan, with thousands of Afghans and foreign nationals still struggling to escape the country. Relative of Germany's DW journalist killed by the Taliban. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg convenes an extraordinary virtual meeting of NATO foreign ministers to discuss the situation in Afghanistan. An earthquake hit Haiti. Hospitals in the country and northern Les Cayes swamped with patients for treatment. Corridors and tents being set up outside the overwhelmed buildings of hospitals. Official death toll from Saturday's deadly quake above 2,100. World continues to fight COVID-19 pandemic. Over 21 crore, 7 lakh people infected, while the number of recoveries stand above 18 crore, 87 lakh globally. Coronavirus claims over 44 lakh, 16,000 lives globally. The United States remains the worst hit. Team India continues to shine in the Junior World Wrestling Championship in Ufa. India backs 2 more medals, adding to its already existing number of 6 in the kitty. Let's now begin with the big news we're tracking at this hour. Well, in a very unfortunate development in the latest from emerging out of Afghanistan, it's a shocking development. Taliban fighters in Afghanistan have shot and killed a relative of Deutsche Welle journalist while hunting for him. According to the German public broadcaster, the terrorists were conducting a house-to-house search for the journalist, who now works in Germany. A second relative was seriously wounded, but others were able to escape. It said, without giving details of the incident. DW Director General has condemned the killing, which he said showed the danger to the media workers and their families in Afghanistan. And for that, we are joined by more on that by Ritika Pandey, who's a journalist with the DW based in Germany. Ritika, many thanks for joining in. First of all, give us a sense of why were the Taliban hunting for this DW journalist? What do they say were their objections to his reporting? And is it just limited to the DW journalist, or is that the general situation of journalists, foreign journalists, Afghan journalists? Is it a bid to scuttle the media in Afghanistan?
Yes, so this person who is associated with, was associated with a relative of a journalist who works for DW, who lost his life in an unfortunate incident yesterday, has basically sent a shockwave throughout in all the media organizations. Major ones, including Deutsche Welle, have joined the Federal Association of German Newspaper Publisher. It's a big organization, and sent out an open letter calling on the German government to do more and quickly. They've also asked to set up an emergency visa program for the Afghan staff, basically. All those journalists who have been reporting in the past years and who suddenly are on the target list. basically they are facing imminent danger right now. So it's not just CW journalists who are facing this kind of threat, as you rightly mentioned. It's basically all those correspondents, reporters, journalists working for the local and international media houses who are seen as working for the Western media organizations or have any ties with the Western media organizations. So journalists are under threat right now in the land. So the incident is part of that greater threat over all the journalists, and that's why this joint demands from all the German newspaper publishers, this organization that I'm talking about, they are asking for immediate help and evacuation of these staffers, the people who have worked for our media organizations, and setting up special emergency visa programs targeted for them.
Okay. And Ritika, are you then suggesting that the Taliban does not want a fair and free press which runs contrary to what the Taliban has been claiming, saying that, well, we are a reformed Taliban, we are a changed Taliban, don't look at us from the lens of the past. When our Zabiullah Mujahid did that press conference, said, look, we are reaching out to you, we are talking to them. They made a woman journalist sit and interview them from Toro News. So they were trying to put the optics right, but this puts a totally different face of Taliban than what they claim to be.
See, it will be too naive to actually take those statements made in the press conference on the face value. That much is sure. We will see how the situation develops and whether they actually keep the words at the promise of having a thriving media and free journalists who will be able to do their work, their job. But the recent developments have showed it is not so. A major news anchor of a TV channel, a woman, was replaced by a man in a, you can see in a Taliban
Qatar,
So the thing is, the optics, even that doesn't match the words that were spoken in the press conference and the multiple examples as of now. And in which direction does it go and how free the media remains, of course we will see as the situation unfolds, but it doesn't seem like it will be too wise to take those words on face value right now. And that's why the journalists who have been working for various international media organizations from the region, they are either hiding, just doing something to save their lives for a while, because the house-to-house search operations and the targeting is quite a scary environment to live in.
Absolutely.
And we've seen how bad can it get.
Absolutely. I mean, it's totally shocking and unfortunate that this incident happened, and they went on to kill the relative of the DW journalist. And as you say, the other journalists also feels threatened and scared for their lives. Many thanks, Ritika Pandey, for joining us and giving us that update. Thank you. And thousands of Afghans, including many women and children, continue to wait outside Kabul airport, desperately waiting for a chance to flee the country. Hamid Karzai International Airport is the only way one can leave Afghanistan. According to latest reports from Kabul, the Taliban fighters have been deployed at all checkpoints leading up to the airport. The Taliban gunmen are allowing only foreigners to pass their cordon. The Taliban conquered Afghanistan at lightning speed as foreign troops withdrew, surprising even its leaders and leaving them to fill power vacuums at many places. And in a heart-wrenching video capturing the sense of desperation, a small child was lifted up over the high perimeter wall and passed onto the hands of an American soldier. People are fearful of what the Taliban's sudden return to power will mean. And meanwhile, the commercial traffic across Afghanistan's border with Pakistan at Torkham crossing picked up on Thursday. Armed guards monitored trucks as they passed, while the Taliban's white flag appeared to hang over the crossing. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the Taliban's desire for international recognition is Security Council's only leverage to press for inclusive government and respect for rights, particularly for women in Afghanistan. Guterres told reporters that he discussed that leverage with the 15-member body during a closed-door meeting on Monday, urging them to remain united. Guterres said that he is ready to speak with the Taliban himself when it's clear with whom should I speak, for what purpose. He added, for now, UN officials in Kabul have been in close contact with the Taliban.
It's very important for the international community to be united, for all members of the Security Council, but in general for the international community to be united, to use the only leverage that exists, which is the interest of the Taliban for legitimacy, for recognition. And for that to be possible, I think it's important that the international community is speaking one single voice.
Also, Ireland's ambassador to the United Nations, Geraldine Byron-Mason, said that the reports emerging from Afghanistan are totally opposite to assurances given by the Taliban. He added that now it is time for the Council to stand with women and girls of Afghanistan. The heads of UN agencies and international aid groups appealed on Thursday for more humanitarian funding for Afghanistan as they pledged to stay, warning that they were at least 800 million short of what was needed.
The Security Council must insist with all Afghan parties that the full, equal and meaningful participation of women in any new government is a non-negotiable condition of international engagement. We've all heard the purported assurances from the Taliban that the rights of women and girls will be respected. What we hear from women on the ground does not bear this out. The past record of the Taliban does not bear this out. The Security Council must listen to Afghan women and it must heed them. Now is the time for the Council to stand with the women and girls of Afghanistan.
And to talk more about that, I'm joined by Vishnu Prakash, former diplomat, and also Dr. Manjari Singh, Associate Fellow at CLAWS, or the Center for Land Warfare Studies, which is a research institution based in Delhi. Both Dr. Manjari Singh and Ambassador Prakash, many thanks for joining. First to you, Ambassador Prakash. This shocking incident where they've killed the relatives of a DW journalist, who luckily was not there at that particular time and had already left for Germany. They came to their house and they're saying they're doing house searches now, looking for journalists to kill. Now this runs contrary to what the Taliban has been saying, that look, don't fear us, we are not the Taliban of the 1996, we are a different Taliban. In fact, they did, for optics, they did a one-on-one interview in a studio with a female journalist who wasn't wearing a headgear that the Taliban wishes to impose on women, or one understands would want to wish to impose on women. And then Zabiullah Mujahid did a press conference saying, look at me, here I am asking you, answering all your questions, and don't you look at us, aren't we changed? Women will also be allowed their rights. But what they're doing on the ground doesn't inspire much confidence.
Good evening, and there is no surprise there whatsoever. Let's face it, Taliban is a regressive medieval organization, and most of the fighters are trigger happy, half literate, have a gun, there is no accountability, and they will use it. Now, yes, when they say they have changed, that is correct. What the big change is that some of them have acquired a bit of sophistication. Let's say that for the ease of reference, I could call them the Doha Taliban. Now, they have learned to speak English, they have learned to launch a propaganda machinery. They have been issuing statements in 5 languages, trying to show that they are different. Even if I had to give them the benefit of the doubt, the fact also remains that Taliban is not monolithical. It is not an organization, there is no central leadership, and there is no command and control at the moment. So even if the leadership wants, by the time it percolates down to the last fighter, it will take a long time. But the portents are not good at all. The areas that they have occupied, for example, Kandahar, I read that bodies are strewn on the streets because they went house to house trying to identify people who they thought was collaborators and were killed. They have killed Afghan national forces. They have, in some cases, I am told that they have picked up women and using them as sex slaves now, after all this. And Kabul just mentioned how they are going house to house. So the signs are not good at all, and it seems that we do not know where the command and control is, who is calling the shots. Whether Rawalpindi is calling the shots, whether Kandahar is calling, Kabul is calling. So these are still early days, but we'll have to wait and watch. But everybody is in their crosshair, so to say, and they will go after people who they perceive to be against their interests.
Okay. Dr. Manjari Singh, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash says, well, the leopard hasn't changed its spots. It is the same. It is, they were primitive, they were fundamentalist, and that's what they are. They, despite the aberrations, I think we've lost contact with Dr. Manjari Singh. We'll try and reconnect with her. Let me go, okay, I think we are back with Dr. Manjari Singh. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was saying Ambassador Prakash says that, you know, they are the same Taliban that we saw the last time, despite what some of them may say. He calls them the Doha Taliban. He says their core remains the same primitive fundamentalist, and they stand for the same values that you know, they are known for, and there is no change. And secondly, the second point that he makes, there is chaos and confusion. Nobody knows who is in command. So even if the top leadership or a certain part of the leadership has changed, the ground base remains the same, and till it percolates down to them, and they are it will be quite a while, and they are the ones going and executing people, doing house searches, and they are the ones who are going to impose their idea of governance on people, and that's where the problem lies. Do you agree with that assessment first?
Actually, what I want to point out is that Taliban today is more sophisticated. I don't agree that they are the same Taliban that they were, the primitive Taliban that they were in the 1990s. I think that they are more sophisticated. Why I am saying this is because, first, this is the first time when a non-state actor, as of now, is using private militaries. There were instances wherein people, the eyewitnesses, were seen to point out that the language used by the Taliban fighters were foreign. They were not talking in Pashtun. They were not talking in any other language that is spoken in Afghanistan. So, which means that they are employing private militaries. So, this is the first time that they are doing.
No, I'm sorry. You saying they are employing private what?
Militaries.
Okay, militaries.
Private militaries. Yes. Mercenaries, that is. As of now, it was the state actors. It was countries like US, UK and others, Russia for instance, they were using private militaries. This is the first time when we see that in Afghanistan, Taliban is using private militaries. So that is why I'm saying that this Taliban is different from the other one. Second one is that I feel that it is more sophisticated. Why? Because like we talked about the leadership. I think the leadership is quite top down, you know, like there is Akhundzada, who is the top leader. Then there are three deputies under him, wherein Abdul Baradar is one of them who takes care of the political development in Taliban. Then there is Mr. Yaqub, who is the militant head. Then there is Haqqani, who is the head of the Haqqani network. So
how does that, Dr. Singh, how does that make them more sophisticated if they have different people heading different branches? How does that make
I'm coming to that. Coming to that. So what I'm saying is that they have political wing, they have economic wing, they have military wing, they have all sorts of, and they have people who are, you know, there's a set of people who are going and talking on the peace deals. whereas there are others who are taking care of the militancy. So this is how they are more, barbaric. Yes, their sort of, like their use of terror as a mechanism to gain power is there, yes, but sophistication in the sense that we have to see in the coming years or in the coming days, how they take over the administration, because this is just one part of it. Right now they are just trying to gain power. What Taliban does once it is taken power, once it is in the administration, is one needs to
Dr.
see.
Singh,
Yes,
when they were in the government the last time, they had a civil aviation minister, they had a finance minister, they had a health minister. So they had people heading departments, but if they remain barbaric, primitive, fundamentalist, the core remains the same, they still remain the same. It is not, somebody would have been heading their military the last time around as well. If the core remains the same, they still represent what they stood for. And if they're using the same means, that belies the right noises that they're making. Anyway, we will come back to that point. Ambassador Prakash, if that is what they are, then the big question in front of the world is that should the world give recognition to such a regime, because the Secretary General of the UN says that that is the only leverage that the Security Council has, their need to get international recognition. But if this is what they stand for, should the world even look at giving recognition, or will the world give them recognition?
Well, the Secretary General is right in a way. That is not the only leverage. Also, there are some funds which the US has frozen. So they would also, for administration, they would need funds. But they would want recognition, but I don't think that it is a deal breaker for them, because even if they don't get recognition from the rest of the world, the Western world, and frankly they don't care, they will continue. What they seek, they have got. They have China, they have Pakistan, they would get recognition perhaps from Qatar and maybe from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Russia, Iran. So for them, it is not an ideal situation, but that is good enough. Already you can see narrative building where Pakistan and China have started saying that they are different, they should be facilitated, etc., etc. So we will see this narrative being spun, and already some Western interest groups have started speaking in the same language, including the British Army Chief. So it is a difficult situation. Now, the Secretary General and the UN Security Council can say all that they want to say. The question, my dear friend, and which we have to ask ourselves is, what will they do to enforce it? I heard on your program one of the members of the Security Council saying that women should be given due right, they should they should have equal partnership. Absolutely, but I mean, you're preaching to the Taliban, so it is going to be very difficult. Even if there is some change in them, that will come. We'll see that after some time. But the fact is that they are in command. That the people of Afghanistan, especially the women and children, are the worst sufferers. And also, let's not forget the way people are traumatized and wanting to leave. Who will know more about Taliban than the people of Afghanistan, who know that the dark days are here and the dark clouds are hovering over them.
Okay. Dr. Manjari Singh, the last time they came into power, the Afghans didn't really know what they stood for. They wanted to impose a religious order run by the Islamic law. Now, it is an Islamic country, and that argument has a certain level of appeal within our society. But the Afghans weren't prepared for the barbarism that they unleashed. And so we see so many people wanting to get out, that, you know, really horrifying and terrible visual of somebody giving their 5-day-old child to the US military and saying, take it away, because we don't see his or her future here in the US, even if we can't get out, in Afghanistan, even if we can't get out. Now that must be heartbreaking for the parents. Today, when, you know, and then we see protests where people are raising the Afghan flag and discarding the white flag of the Taliban. Some women protested in Kabul, talking about women's rights. Now, would they be able to put the Afghans down with the gun, especially if they do not get the complete international recognition or majority international recognition? Ambassador Prakash says they don't care much for it. But how difficult or easy would it be for them to run the country?
Actually, I agree with Ambassador Vishnu Prakash here, because you see, like, it's going to be very difficult for them to stay their grounds in Afghanistan, because right now what is happening, earlier Afghanistan, like you said, that Afghanis were not ready for Taliban. They did not know the real face of Taliban. Today it is different. They have had the experience of being under Taliban, so they know. And of course, the pictures that had come on the online, they were really disheartening to see, you know, how the Afghanis are resisting. Then there are resistance forces also in the eastern city of Jalalabad, from the Panjshir, wherein, you know, like, people had raised their flags just before the Afghanistan Independence Day. So of course there is resistance, of course there is fear, but for some time, yes, they are going to, you know, stay their ground. But after how sustainable it is going to be, that is questionable. That is really something which is questionable. And of course, they don't care about the world. I mean, if you look at it, they are following.
But Manjari, if they don't care about the world, they need the money to run the country. What if the IMF stops the funds? How do they run? How do they fly the planes that they've inherited? How do they run the finances of the country? How do they do the governance? You know, after all, running a country, running developmental projects for people, feeding people, having international trade, you need certain kind of expertise, you need to pay people, you need to run the economy. And we know that the Afghanistan economy, given the constant state of war that they have been in, hasn't been able to, you know, the economy is not self-sustaining. It does require outside money to sustain.
Yeah. No, so that's what I'm saying. They won't get all the support from the international, but back channel support they might get. That's what I'm saying, that they are following the ISIS path. ISIS was also running the country, I mean, in a way, the areas that they had captured, right? So similarly, I think that these people also, because they have the control of the strategic assets, they have taken over the American weapons, the Scan Eagle drones, and all the missile systems that the Americans had supplied to Afghanistan government. All of that is under control of the Taliban right now. So they will follow the path, and underhand, yes, they might get some support, but I don't think that internationally most of the countries are going to recognize Taliban.
Okay, and do you see the you know, limited protests that we are seeing because people are in fear? Do you see them gaining ground in the days to come? Do you see other minorities, because they are more assertive now? Amrullah Saleh is in Panjshir, Masood's son, Amit Shah Masood's son is in Panjshir. So do you see you know, say the Tajiks, the Uzbeks, the Hazaras sort of raising up the protest, and do you see it heading towards a more chaotic situation or a civil war situation?
It will lead to a civil war situation. What I'm trying to say here is that probably all the resistance movement that is happening now should have happened much earlier. If you see, Taliban is not gaining grounds just now. They were there, they were using the military offensive since May this year. So there was ample, opportunities for the resistance movements and for the international community to take a stand, but they did not. So I think it is pretty late. It will have some, it will lead to chaotic situation. It will have some sort of, civil war situation in the country, but in the end, we know who's going to be the winner. So I think that way it is a bad situation in Afghanistan.
Okay, what does it augur, how does it augur for India? What would, in your opinion, be India's response? Because India would be in a predicament. Would it take the path that it took the last time, not recognizing them? Because for India right now, it's a proscribed organization. But will India continue with that stance or take a more pragmatic stance of establishing diplomatic relations and using whatever limited leverage you have to protect your own interests?
This time India is in a lot bigger quagmire, I feel, because right now what is happening is our stakes in the region is very high. We have a Chabar port there. Then we have more than about 400 development assistance that we have in the country. What is more interesting is that China and Pakistan, the two adversaries of India, are well placed in Afghanistan. They are also in talking terms with Taliban. So it is going to be very difficult for India to have, to stay out of the whole situation.
Okay, so you're saying that Indians should and would want to, in your opinion, establish some sort of presence and some sort of engagement with the Taliban?
Probably, but in a clandestine manner. I don't think it will happen openly, because openly India will not recognize Taliban. I feel that is what India will do.
You're saying the Indians wouldn't open up a mission there, we wouldn't have an embassy there, there might be some back channel talks, but doesn't it pay to rather talk to them, because if say the Taliban, yes, the Taliban is influenced by say the ISI or the Pakistani establishment, but that is till the time they come to power on their own. If they become their own, there would be chinks with the Pakistanis, there would be differences of positions. Right now they were not in a position to sort of assert themselves, but once Kabul is captured, they become a sovereign government, despite who recognizes or who doesn't recognize them. Then come the real differences to the fore. Now they're coming in and filling in those gaps. Don't you think Indians get more leverage there rather than to stay out and have a situation like in the 90s, where when 814 happened, you had just no contact with them?
Yeah. Actually, if you look at India's history of recognizing other countries, it has always come after the after the international governments have recognized those countries or those governments. So I think India probably will take the same stance. It will not be the first one to recognize Taliban, of course. That's why I said that the initial contacts with Taliban will be clandestine. It is not going to be open contacts. And yes, like you said, that Taliban is not a homogeneous group, it's a heterogeneous group. There are many stakeholders, and Pakistan Taliban is just a supporter, right? So of course, it will take a sort of its own stand. Taliban in Afghanistan, but still I feel that India will have a clandestine, for now it will have a clandestine relation. It will, even if it recognizes, it will recognize only when the other international communities do the same.
All right.
It will not happen, it will not take the first step.
All right. Overall, it's a very tense situation, and we'll have to wait and watch how the cookie crumbles. Many thanks, Dr. Manjari Singh, for joining us and lending us your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the US State Department has said that it was sending more consular officers to Kabul and other locations, including Qatar and Kuwait, to help with the evacuation effort from Afghanistan after the Taliban seized Kabul. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said that 6,000 fully processed people were currently at the airport in Kabul and would soon be boarding planes. He added Washington would nearly double the number of consular officers in Kabul without disclosing how many are deployed. Once the consular capacity in Kabul figure is doubled. He said the State Department believes it will have the number of officers needed to process individuals and fill flights. The Pentagon has said its aim is to evacuate between 5,000 and 9,000 people every day.
12 C-17s departed within the last 24 hours, with more than 2,000 passengers who arrived at safe havens. Since August 14th, we've airlifted 7,000 total evacuees. I can also confirm there are 6,000 people at the airport right now who've been fully processed by our consular team and will soon board planes. Overnight, we significantly expanded how many American citizens, locally employed staff, SIV applicants, and other vulnerable Afghans who were eligible for departure, and we offered them to consider transit to the airport.
2 buses carrying people evacuated from Afghanistan left Frankfurt Airport late on Thursday, bringing the evacuees to temporary accommodation in Brandenburg. The evacuees were brought in on planes from Kabul via Tashkent and in Uzbekistan to Frankfurt, where they underwent the COVID tests and identity checks. For security reasons, they were accompanied by German army vehicles. Germany has brought almost 1,000 German workers and local assistants over the last 2 days. Meanwhile, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has urged European countries to take responsibility for migrants coming from Afghanistan. He added that Turkey had no intention of becoming Europe's migrant storage unit amid turmoil in the country after Taliban's takeover. Thousands had also crossed into Turkey in the recent weeks as Islamist insurgents swept through the country en route to Kabul. Speaking after a cabinet meeting, Erdogan said that Europe needed to take responsibility for Afghans fleeing the country, adding that Ankara had taken measures along its borders with Iran, a key route for Afghan migrants into Turkey. He also said that Turkey could engage in talks with a new government to be formed by the Taliban to discuss our common agendas. And back home in India, External Affairs Ministry has added additional numbers to its 24/7 Special Afghanistan Cell. The ministry had set up a Special Afghanistan Cell to coordinate repatriation and other requests from Afghanistan. The contact numbers of the special cell are 9717785379. They're being flashed on your television screens right now. You can also, people could also call on the landline number, which is 49016783. You have to prefix +91 if you're calling from outside India, and add 11 to it, so it's +9111, the number that I read out, 490-16783, then 490-16784 and 490-16785. The emails are the emails, or you can also email at MEA's help desk, which is meahelpdesk@gmail.com, and situation room at mea.gov.in. The WhatsApp numbers again are 801-06-11290. You should prefix +91, and then the other number is +91 9599 321199 and +91 704 204 9944. These are the numbers we are flashing on your screens right now. These are the 24/7 special cell set up by the MEA. And German Chancellor Angela Merkel flew to Moscow for talks with President Vladimir Putin, with ties at the post-Cold War lows. Her final official trip to Russia as she prepares to step down next month after nearly 16 years. Relations between Merkel and Putin soared in 2017 when Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine, drawing broad condemnation and sanctions from the West. The talks between the two of Europe's longest-serving leaders coincided with the first anniversary of the poisoning of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny in an incident that severely strained Russia-Germany ties. They were expected to have discussed the situation in Afghanistan also. We are expecting a presser sometime in the evening. We'll bring that to you, what transpired there. And an extraordinary virtual meeting of the NATO or the North Atlantic Council at the level of Ministers of Foreign Affairs is being held. NATO foreign ministers are discussing developments in Afghanistan at the meeting, which will be chaired by NATO Secretary General in a little while from now, Jens Stoltenberg. Earlier, the NATO met on August 17th to discuss the situation in Afghanistan. The then NATO Secretary General said that NATO's focus right now is to ensure the safe departure of personnel from the allied and partner countries of the Afghans who have helped them. Malaysia's king has appointed Ismail Sabri Yaqub as the Prime Minister, returning the job to a party tainted by graft accusations as the Southeast Asian nation grapples with COVID-19 surge and an economic slump. Ismail Sabri replaces Mayuddin Yassin, who stepped down on Monday after coalition infighting cost him his majority, but the new Prime Minister's backing by the same alliance raises concerns that he will also lead an unstable government. Ismail Sabri is to be sworn on Saturday after he secured a slim majority with the backing of 114 of the Parliament's 222 members. And let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. Well, COVID-19 has infected over 21 crore 7 lakh people across the world, while the number of recoveries stand above 18 crore 87 lakh globally. The virus has claimed more than 44 lakh 16,000 lives worldwide. The US continues to remain worst affected with the disease, where the number of cases have crossed 3 crore 82 lakh, while over 6 lakh 42,000 fatalities have been registered so far. In Australia, COVID-19 curbs have been tightened in a bid to combat the surge in the number of COVID-19 cases. The country has extended lockdown through September. COVID-19 pandemic batters Australia as the country reports the highest single-day spike in the number of cases. Australia recorded 754 new cases on Thursday, breaking its record of 738 cases during the second wave in 2020. Health authorities in the country are racing to increase the pace of vaccinations against the fast-moving Delta variant. Australia has over 41,000 cases of COVID-19 with more than 420 fatalities so far. While in neighbouring New Zealand, COVID-19 cases have crossed 20, with 11 new cases reported on Thursday alone. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has linked the spike in the number of COVID cases to recent passengers returning from Sydney. She added that lab tests had revealed the current positive cases were close match to the returnee who arrived from a flight on August 7th. The person tested positive for COVID-19 on August 9th and was moved to a quarantine facility. The country is under strict 3-day lockdown scheduled to end today.
What this information tells us is that our cases are most likely to have come from the traveller. This is a significant development. It means now we can be fairly certain how and when the virus entered the country, and that based on timelines, there are minimal, possibly only 1 or maybe 2 missing links between this returnee and cases in our current outbreak. And the period in which cases were in the community is relatively short.
In Mexico, COVID-19 cases accelerate, hitting record highs with official number of fatalities crossing 250,000, one of the highest death toll in the world. Mexico is battling a new wave of coronavirus pandemic. However, COVID-19 protocols went for a toss as Mexicans thronged markets and restaurants. The country has over 31,52,000 cases of the disease. Health authorities have warned that the actual number of cases and deaths is likely 60% above the official data. Australian authorities today extended a COVID-19 lockdown in Sydney until the end of September and introduced a night curfew in the city's worst affected suburbs. This comes after nearly 2 months of curbs failed to contain an outbreak of the Delta variant. New South Wales Premier also announced the city's 5 million residents must wear a mask as soon as they step outside their homes, except when exercising, which has been limited to an hour a day. Australia, which has successfully suppressed the virus for most of the pandemic, is struggling to contain the Delta outbreak, a sharp turnaround for a country which had experienced only sporadic flare-ups for several months this year. Police has been given sweeping new powers to ensure compliance with lockdown measures across the city. Bangladesh has reopened all tourist places across the country after COVID-19 induced closure of 5 months. However, tourists will not be allowed to enter tourist places without face masks. The government has allowed reopening of all tourist spots, community centers, resorts and recreation with 50% capacity from August 19th. Bangladesh government has also facilitated with mobile codes to monitor strict adherence to COVID appropriate behavior at public places. The country has over 14,47,000 cases of COVID-19 with more than 24,000 fatalities so far. And let's now bring you what else is making news across the world.
In the earthquake-hit Haiti, hospitals in the country's North Lake case were swamped with patients for treatment. Corridors and tents were being set up outside the overwhelmed buildings of hospitals. Haitian authorities revealed that official death toll from the Saturday's deadly earthquake has reached 2,189. Meanwhile, foreign food aid slowly trickled into more rural areas of southwestern Haiti. Hundreds of people lined up to receive provisions from the UN World Food Programme at a camp in the rural town of Camp Perrin for people displaced by Saturday's 7.2 magnitude quake. Tropical storm Grace dumped 4 to 8 inches rain on Mexico's Caribbean coast. However, it appeared to have spared local tourist resorts serious damage as it moved across the Yucatan Peninsula into the Gulf of Mexico, where it was due to strengthen again. The government of Quintana Roo state said that no injuries have been reported so far. The authorities also reported some power outages and toppled trees in Tulum. In Bolivia, Grace pumped heavy rain, strong winds and hail across the city of Riberalta in the Beni province. The storm has affected buildings and houses. In a dramatic video on social media, the roof of a local commerce can be seen lifted off by the wind and landing on the street. However, the storm has not caused any injury or loss of life in the country. The death toll from an attack on civilians and the military in northern Burkina Faso has risen to 80 people. The attack occurred on Wednesday when Islamist terrorists raided a civilian convoy that was being escorted by military police near the town of Arbinda, the latest in a spate of attacks across West Africa's Sahel region this month. Clashes broke out in the Peruvian town of Juarez after police carried out an operation to remove street vendors from a local market. Street vendors threw sticks at police officers armed with riot shields and batons to try to impede the authorities from removing them from the area and confiscating their merchandise. No injuries were reported after the confrontation. World Today Desk, DD India.
And Team India continues to shine in Junior World Wrestling Championships 2020 in Ufa in Russia. In the ongoing championship, Vipasha has clinched silver medal in the 76 kg weight category. In the final, American wrestler Kylie Walker defeated Vipasha on the basis of technical proficiency. On the other hand, Simran won the bronze medal in the 50 kg weight category. Simran defeated Belarus wrestler Natalia Warkina 7-3, while Sito defeated Turkish wrestler on technical prowess in the 55 kg weight category. Earlier in the men's freestyle, India finished its campaign with 6 medals, including a silver. And let's now take a look at sporting stories from the international arena.
Tokyo 2020 organizers held a flame-gathering ceremony days before the opening ceremony of the Paralympics. 3 separate flames gathered from 62 municipalities across the host city were combined into one during the ceremony. Earlier on the day, the Paralympic symbol was installed in Tokyo Bay ahead of the Paralympic Games scheduled for August 24 to September 5. According to the Tokyo government, the Paralympic symbol will be on display near the city's iconic Rainbow Bridge till the end of the Paralympic Games. Also known as the Three Agitos, the monument is 23.4 meter wide, 17.5 meter long and will be lit up all night. And error-prone Naomi Osaka was stunned 3-6, 6-3, 6-3 by Jill Teichmann in the third round of the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati. World number 2 Osaka cruised through the first set and looked like she would make a short work for the Swiss wildcard. 12th seed Felix Auger of Canada reached the quarterfinals of the Cincinnati ATP Masters 1000 Series event after defeating 5th seed Italian Matteo Berrettini 6-4, 6-3. After an early exchange of service break, the Canadian took the opening set when he broke Berrettini's serve again in the 10th game. The Italian was playing in his first tournament since losing the Wimbledon final to Novak Djokovic last month. PSG manager Mauricio Pochettino says that Lionel Messi may be in the Paris Saint-Germain squad for their League One visit to Brest on Friday, although remained tight-lipped on whether the six-time Ballon d'Or winner would finally make his debut. Messi is yet to feature for the French Giants after joining them for Barcelona earlier this month. Sports Desk, DD India.
And now it's time for our segment Beyond the Headlines. These are stories that make news but not headlines.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk has announced that company will probably have a prototype of a humanoid robot called Tesla Bot by 2022. He has said that the robot would eliminate dangerous, repetitive, boring tasks now performed by humans. The robot, with a human-like appearance, would carry out the physical work that people like to do the least, with profound implications for the economy. The Tesla Bot will be 5 feet 8 inches tall and move at a maximum speed of 8 kilometers per hour. After half an hour's wind-swept journey on foot and by boat through a craggy forested estuary to the school he attends in remote southern Chile, Diego Guerrero can finally access the internet. His school is located in the hamlet of Sotomo, around 1,000 kilometers south of the capital Santiago. For decades, its inhabitants have survived by catching mussels and fish to sell at market, a 5-hour round trip away by boat. Now it is one of the 2 places in Chile to be chosen for a pilot project run by billionaire Elon Musk to receive free internet for a year. Facebook Inc. has launched a test of new virtual reality remote work app where users of the company's Oculus Quest 2 headsets can hold meetings as avatar versions of themselves. The beta test of Facebook's Horizon Workrooms app comes as many companies continue to work from home after COVID-19 pandemic shut down physical workplaces and as a new variant is sweeping across the globe. Facebook sees its latest launch as an early step towards building the futuristic metaverse. Since the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic at the end of April in Vietnam, the demand for remote healthcare and medical consultation has been increasing. To help doctors and medical experts connect with patients remotely, a mobile app called Help Me was developed by 4 Vietnamese startups. After downloading the mobile app, users need to follow the instructions provided to receive medical assistance via text message or video call. Thousands of medical experts and highly qualified doctors have joined the Help Me project to provide remote support to people in need round the clock. Just days after the first Asian giant hornet sighting of the year, State Department of Agriculture employees from Washington and Oregon gathered in an open-air classroom just a few miles south of the Canadian border to learn how to trap, track and eradicate the invasive species. Once spotted, these hornets are tracked to its nest so that its queen and other hornets can be destroyed, ideally before reproducing. Climate change has troubled many. For an American beekeeper, the story is no different. A scorching drought is slashing honey production in North Dakota, the top honey-producing state. John Miner, a beekeeper, is now bearing the brunt. These bees are feeding on food crops and cannot produce the amount of honey expected by the keepers. Miller expects less than 30 pounds of harvestable honey per colony from his roughly 16,000 hives this summer, down from around 50 pounds in recent years and least in 52 years. A sculpture made of butter is grabbing eyeballs in New York. The annual butter sculpture has been unveiled with a great fanfare at the New York State Fair. Sponsored by the American Dairy Association, the sculpture has been made of 800 pounds of butter dedicated to teens getting back to life as normal after the coronavirus pandemic. It took artists Jim Victor and Mary Pelton 10 days to make the sculpture, which is titled Back to School, Sports and Play, You're Going to Need Milk for That. The sculpture features teenagers in a cafeteria, soccer field and gaming at home. The wait is finally over as Singapore's giant panda pair of Kai Kai and Jia Jia are now parents. Jia Jia has given birth to the first born in Singapore panda cub at River Safari. The newborn is tiny and weighs just 200 grams. The birth is the first for Jia Jia. Mother and cub are housed in an off-exhibit den for now to allow them to nurse and bond. World Today Desk, DD India.
And that's it then in World Today. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.